Did you know that the mercenary Slade Wilson has a code name by which he's better known as?
Ron Perlman?
No! He's actually known as Deathstroke the Terminator of DC Comics villain and Arrow villain fame. We're going to learn all the secrets about Deathstroke, aka Slade Wilson, because your geek history lesson is now in session. Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. Your class is now in session. I'm Jason Inman.
I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson, and welcome to your Mind University.
Mind University is now open because we are expanding your mind with geek knowledge of all types and all things. Today's episode is about Deathstroke the Terminator. I'm not calling him just Deathstroke because I love his full code name. He is Deathstroke the Terminator.
You think he prints that on his business cards?
I hope so. If I saw a man that was like Jeff
the Terminator,
I'd be like, that guy is a guy who can get stuff done. Jeff the Terminator.
Beyond just pest control.
Or maybe he can just fire people because he terminates.
Oh, yeah, like an HR person?
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about Deathstroke the Terminator because he's very big on Arrow right now, and he is very big in the DC universe, even though his comic book was just canceled. But he's still a big DC Comics villain, so we're going to learn all about him. We're going to learn all about him today like you learn about all the things. So we're just going to get right into it, and let me give you his 10-cent origin, all the basic facts you need to know about Deathstroke. He was created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, who we have mentioned on this show before.
We like them.
His first appearance was in the new Teen Titans #2 in a storyline called Today the Terminator with 3 exclamation points.
Wow.
His secret identity is Slade Wilson, and his powers are enhanced abilities. So he has enhanced strength.
All abilities.
Enhanced agility. Enhanced piano playing abilities.
Enhanced artistic abilities.
All that jazz. He is that awesome.
He'd be into cubism.
Yeah. So let's get on to our next section is the Meet Cute, which will retell where we first encountered Deathstroke the Terminator, a.k.a. Slade Wilson, a.k.a. Deathstroke. Ashley, where did you first meet old Slady Wilson, as I'm going to call him?
Slady Wilson.
Slady Wilson.
I first met Our Lady Slady Wilson in...
I like it's a car.
Yeah.
Our Lady Slady Wilson.
We already got a song.
I have a song?
Yeah, well, you already
The theme song, you mean?
Sure.
Okay.
Tell
me about old Slady Wilson.
I first met Slady Wilson in the first superhero comic book I ever bought as a small child. And I'm not sure what the number is. It's a new Teen Titans book.
Oh, it's okay.
And I bought it because it's got Robin on the cover. Well, it's got Dick Grayson on the cover, and he's got the Robin a uniform hanging around him because he's moving on from that identity. And it's right in the middle of the Tara storyline.
Yeah.
And so you see Tara with the Teen Titans for a little bit, and then she ran off to talk to Deathstroke. And when you're a tiny, tiny child, he's about the most scary thing you can imagine.
Because his mask is half and half, and you're just like, why is one half of it completely covered and the other half orange?
Yeah, and then
That's a fashion faux pas.
He's not in Canada. He's even scarier underneath it because he's like that mean teacher you have in second grade who only wants to talk about like weather and how to eviscerate animals. So
whoa. Did this mean teacher only have, did he have an eye patch?
No.
Or a bad goatee?
No, but he kind of looked like Slade Wilson.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
In a less sort of cut and could kill you with his bare hands kind of way.
Okay,
his name was Mr. Day.
My first encounter with Deathstroke was, all I remember is that through the 90s, there was a Deathstroke the Terminator comic book series.
Yes.
It ran for like 60 issues.
It had big boots.
I, for a long time, I had a very hard time getting to comic book shops. But what I could do is I could buy Wizard magazine or subscribe to it, which I did for several years, and they would basically spoil every comic book that was out there. And so it was like I was reading the comic books myself. And so I remember in a Wizard magazine seeing a cover that was a picture of like an army unit, and Slade Wilson was in this army unit, but the picture was splashed with blood. And so the cover was red. And I remember this photographed cover, and it was a cover for Deathstroke the Terminator. And so I was like, who the heck is this Deathstroke guy? And so I researched Deathstroke and found out that he wore a bad mask that is a fashion faux pas and looks like elementary school teachers in Canada, apparently.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Only like really, really low elementary grades.
So wait. So school teachers in Canada either look like Slade Wilson or Harley Morenstein from Epic Mealtime. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, kind of. That's actually all pretty accurate.
Now we move into our History 101 section, the meat of the episode. The what would they call it in Canada?
Meat, the beaver.
The beaver of the episode. the information that you want to know, the nitty-gritty, the origin of Slade Wilson. Here we go.
And as always, take notes because there will be a quiz after.
There will be a quiz. So Slade Wilson, at the plucky age of 16, joined the Army.
He existed not as a 50-year-old man.
No, he grew up. Now, this, of course, was in flashbacks. He first appeared as an old man.
Yeah.
So this is in flashbacks.
Okay.
So at age 16, he joined the United States Army, which, is illegal and impossible. You cannot join the United States Army at 16.
You can join the British Army at 15 if it's World War II and you're my grandfather.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Fact.
No, it doesn't happen.
You guys are more stingy about
the
it.
earliest you can do is 17, and you have to have your parents' permission.
So that's not going to happen.
He trained under Adeline Kane, who was an instructor of his, who befriended him and became friends with him, who he actually later married her. Which is also... Oh, wait, go ahead.
I didn't realize that was a woman's name until you revealed that he married them, and I was like, that's really progressive for DC.
Adeline, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a man's name to me.
I'm Deathstroke.
So.
Why is Deathstroke British? He's American. Hello.
Well, he's actually
I'm
Australian or possibly...
If you go by Arrow,
yeah. He's American.
I'm Deathstroke. I like to marry men in 1970. Which,
maybe he's from San Francisco. You don't know.
That's true.
Well, you do know, actually. This is your class.
I do know. Listen to Professor Me.
Professor You, where was he born?
So, I don't know. There's no information about where he was born.
Just at 16.
But let's, say he is an American Australian. Let's go with it. Okay, so he trained under Adeline Kane, who was an instructor, who he later married, which, as I was going to say, is also illegal. You cannot fraternize in the United States Army with a superior officer in your command. So already Deathstroke is 2 for 2.
And he's not dishonorably discharged?
He's not dishonorably discharged.
I dig it.
Okay.
Comic books.
Yeah. So Slade Wilson, he later becomes a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, salutes the flag, does all this stuff. Some information about his marriage with Madeline. Adeline, I can't even remember his name. That's how who cares about her? She gave birth to their first son, Grant Wilson, okay, who later became a DC character that we'll talk about. And just for a quick note, info dump, he has 2 other children.
Yes.
Joseph.
Yep.
Who is from that marriage, and Rose, but Rose is illegitimate.
Okay.
So he didn't, Adeline is not Rose's mother. We don't know who Rose's mother is. We don't know.
Yeah.
No. But there you go. That'll come important later. So the Army asked Slade, Lieutenant Colonel Slade, to be a volunteer for a secret medical experiment that was said to be a defense against the enemy's truth serum. So they were like, okay, the enemy's got some pretty powerful truth serum.
So we're going to turn your brain into a rock.
Well, I don't know what they were intending to do, but here's the thing that you learn about experiments in comics. They always go wrong.
Except for one dude who survives.
Yeah, except for one
Everyone
dude.
else is slaughtered, and one dude makes it.
But this was just supposed to, give him, mental fortitude to stop against the truth serum. And he got injected with this stuff, and it made him super strong, super fast.
Hulked out.
Yeah, it's like, okay, what the hell were these scientists up to that their truth serum created a Hulk?
How many cow steroids are in there? I hit my mic, sorry.
Yeah, it was just we're so in the wrong ballpark. It's just ridiculous. It makes you wonder in the comic books, how the Americans ever built the atomic bomb. They were like, okay, we're going to build the atomic bomb, and then 5 months later, they're like, okay, what do you got? Well, we made a cosmic treadmill.
Yeah, or do all their scientists graduate from DeVry University or what? They can't afford the Harvard grads.
Yeah. President Roosevelt, we have a cosmic treadmill. What the fuck are we going to do with a cosmic treadmill? We need to blow up the Japanese, not run them to death. So I was just
thinking that you could run across the ocean with the cosmic treadmill to the Japanese.
Or travel through time to prehistoric Japanese.
Prehistoric Japanese. Moving on.
Anyways, so his captors, they weren't captors, but his army scientists, they thought the experiment was a failure.
Yeah.
They didn't know that he was super enhanced. His power set is supposed to be about 10 times more powerful than a normal human. they didn't know that he was granted powers. He later found out that it had worked. It enhanced his strength, his speed, his senses, his stamina, and his reflexes. And he decided, while he was still in the army, to put that to use. So he became a mercenary.
Like you do.
Of course.
I'm so much more impressed that Robin could fight him now.
Yeah. Oh, did you not know he was superpowered?
No, I mean, I knew that he was really strong, but I didn't realize that it was 10 times.
Yeah, it's 10
and I'm
times.
like, wow, Robin's an actual child.
Well, a lot of Deathstroke's origin is kind of the evil version of Captain America.
Yeah, definitely.
It really is. Like, he's the evil version of Captain America. So he got these powers, and instead of being super patriotic and like, I'm going to wear an American flag, he was like, I'm going to kill lots of people.
And
song's not as good. That song's not as good.
It's okay. So he's a mercenary and he's running around climbing trees and killing people.
He's just killing people for the highest bidder, and he adopts the code name Deathstroke the Terminator.
Cool.
Which, by the way, Slade Wilson, Deathstroke the Terminator, predates the Terminator movie by 4 years.
Dun, dun, dun.
So James Cameron stole the name from DC
I was just going to say, was there a lawsuit?
No, I don't think there was anything.
Okay.
I don't think there was anything. But as we know now, pretty much the Terminator, do you call it nom de plume?
Nom de plume.
Nom de plume?
Pen name.
Was pretty much dropped. And now he's only known as Deathstroke. And in some cases, he's only known as Slade Wilson because
sometimes it's just Slade.
Yeah, Deathstroke is considered too scary.
Yeah.
But I like Deathstroke the Terminator. I really do. That name is solid. I think we should use it. Truth serum, yay. So anyways, here we go. So Slade started taking out his mercenary contracts without his family knowing. He was
Was he still in the military at this point?
He left the military after a certain amount of time.
Okay.
But he started his mercenary career while still in the military.
Still an officer.
But then eventually it's not really explained, but eventually it's I get the impression from what I read is that he was like, I'm just making way more money over here. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Han Solo'd it.
I get to shoot all these Asian people. This is awesome because Slade Wilson is very much a product of Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the reason why I made that joke. I'm not racist against Asian people.
No, definitely.
I love their food. Speaking of Slade Wilson and Asian food, has nothing to do with Asian food. So he kept doing contracts. His family didn't know. His secret identity kind of thing, right? His youngest son, Joseph, right? Who later becomes a DC character,
with his mutton chops,
was kidnapped by a terrorist known as the Jackal. And I don't mean the Jackal from that bad Bruce Willis movie. I just mean the Jackal. Just go with it. He killed Deathstroke, killed all the kidnappers that had taken that worked for the Jackal, and his son was saved, but just barely. The Jackal slit Joseph's throat, and his vocal cords were cut, and Joseph Wilson would remain a mute for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Yes. So
was this when comics were still being marketed predominantly to children?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, that's legitimately upsetting.
It's kind of those kids can handle way more than you think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, apparently.
Way more than you think. So he had to take Joseph to the hospital because this happened, and because of this, he had to reveal his identity. His he's like, yo, honey, Adeline, I'm talking to you, Adeline, right now.
Yeah?
We're in the hospital right now.
In the hospital, okay.
Yes. Adeline,
Slade.
hey, how's it going? You look pretty today.
Oh, that's kind.
Yeah,
Our son is bleeding to death.
Yeah, speaking of that, there's a closet over there. What do you say we
just hop on in there?
You want to terminate some stuff?
Make a new son?
You want to death some strokes?
Stroke some death.
I
think terminate's not the verb you're looking
terminate?
for.
Oh, okay, sorry. Anyways, yeah, I'm a mercenary and I kill people for fun.
Cool. I'm going to go over here now.
This went way better than I expected. And that's not how it played out in the comic books.
Oh, I like our version. Somebody animate that.
So he had to reveal his secret identity because, of course, Adeline was like, how the hell did our son's throat get cut? Who the hell knows? And he revealed that he was called Deathstroke the Terminator because by this point, Deathstroke the Terminator...
She hadn't noticed that he'd shown up late every night with blood on his hands and
he didn't
sweating.
He didn't come home every night. And this is an unclear detail.
Okay.
But the impression that I have gotten is that he left and was, of course, had a job, and that's where he always went. He didn't, he was like, "Oh, I got to travel for business" or something like that. He was gone for 5 days, and he was in Asia killing a Japanese guy.
Cool.
So, anyways, he told her about his identity. Now, Deathstroke the Terminator at this point had been a very famous world killer, known as like FBI bad guy number one,
Interpol, all that.
Exactly.
Cool.
So she knew exactly as soon as he said Deathstroke the Terminator. She's like, "Oh crap, that's you."
Yeah.
And so she got so enraged that he did that and that he was dishonorable and almost got her son killed that she pulled out a gun and started firing at him.
Cool. I like her.
Okay.
I like this lady I've never heard of until today.
You're gonna like her even more. She is not done with Slade Wilson.
Cool.
She comes back into his life later. So she starts firing at him, and he has enhanced reflexes.
Yeah.
Well, he dodges all of the bullets except for one, which goes right into his eye. And that is the reason why Slade Wilson has an eye patch.
Oh, I'm a little bit upset that it's not Oliver Queen.
It's a little ridiculous.
But that's pretty cool.
The Oliver Queen thing will tie back into it. That's very important. Okay? So she left, of course, and left the two sons and didn't tell either of the sons that
he's Deathstroke?
That he's Deathstroke. Which is an important plot point.
Daddy Deathstroke.
Hey, Mommy.
What?
What does Daddy do? What does Daddy do?
Daddy sells broken promises to doubtful strangers.
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Mommy?
It means bye. Then the door closes, but I don't know how to make that sound effect with my face. There you go. Thanks, Jason.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like Daddy's a mercenary.
Smartest kid ever.
He put together the subconscious clues.
Man, do you think he also knows that Clark Kent is Superman?
Of course. But
this is Grant.
Clark Kent is Superman
about,
in this universe does not exist yet. So, in this timeline.
Oh, okay.
Does not exist yet. Okay, so Deathstroke, so basically he becomes Deathstroke the Terminator full time. So let's skip ahead some years.
Skip.
And we, of course, come to the most famous storyline that Slade Wilson is known for, and that is the Judas Contract. So Slade was offered a contract by this group named Hive, which if you've been reading the New 52, you know they've kind of brought back into full on. But it's kind of been forgotten until the New 52. But Hive, that's acronym. And I don't know what the acronym stands for. My bad. Do you really care? I don't think you do. But let's keep on moving.
I was going to offer to search for it.
So he was offered a contract by Hive to kill a group of superpowered teenagers known as the Teen Titans.
Dun, 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 dun. Teen Titans.
Slade refused. Slade refused the contract.
Really?
But who do you think took the contract? Somebody else took the contract. Somebody mentioned previously in the story took the contract.
Mrs. Slade.
No. I'll give you one more guess.
Oh, Umbrella.
Starts with a G.
That shows you how much. Grant.
Yes. His oldest son, Grant Wilson, who is now
Baby
grown,
Slade.
took the contract.
He's Grant Morrison in my brain.
Oh, Grant Wilson is Grant Morrison?
They look the same. They're both Scottish.
All right. So Grant Wilson took the contract because he idolized Deathstroke. But did not
Without knowing that it was his daddy?
Did not know that it was his dad.
Ooh,
and
that's 6 kinds of meta.
And he took on a costume, called himself Ravager, which is a name that will come back in.
Yes.
And Hive gave him super enhanced abilities, similar to Deathstroke's.
In the same pseudo experiment?
Different.
Okay.
Not the same. So Deathstroke saw this, saw that, and he was like, he kind of felt some little bit of fatherly pride, and so he helped Ravager attack the Teen
Titans.
Titans.
He wasn't like, now I have to kill my son.
No. He was kind of like, okay, I'm cool. All right.
Nice work.
Yeah, because he was like, I'm not going to go after these stupid kids. I only kill Japanese people.
Does he reveal to his son that he's Deathstroke during this whole time?
We'll get there.
Okay.
We will get there. So Ravager started attacking the Teen Titans, and during the battle, Ravager's powers overloaded his body, and Ravager died.
Yes.
Now, I do not know, because I have not read the comic book in a long time, and I could not find any resource of this, but I believe that Slade Wilson reveals himself right before Ravager dies.
So it's a useless gesture anyway.
Exactly.
Okay.
But Slade Wilson is so infuriated by this that the Ravager's powers went out while fighting the Teen Titans, that Slade Wilson dedicated his life to killing the Teen Titans.
Was this also while he may or may not have been related to someone in the Teen Titans?
What?
When Jericho was a teen?
Jericho's coming.
Okay.
You keep getting ahead of me.
Ah!
Take a step back.
Okay.
Class, stop reading ahead. Stop reading ahead and stay with me.
Well, you should have known that they were going to be like that. They've all got their glasses on today.
Their Google glasses?
Yes. I'm going to say yes.
So Slade.
Slade.
So old Slady Wilson. Old Slady Wilson vowed revenge. And this is when he started his ultimate plan to take down the Teen Titans.
Mm-hmm.
He incorporated Tara, the teen, and he started sleeping with her.
Yeah, she was like 12.
Yeah, so he's statutory rape. He's like 50.
He got married when he was like 4, so.
Yeah, that's true. And he sick that he implanted her on the team as a as a
mole.
turncoat and
Turncoat, yes.
Yeah, and eventually took out the whole team.
Yep.
And the only thing that stopped him from destroying the Teen Titans, the only thing that let Nightwing, the first appearance of Nightwing was in this storyline.
Disco Wing?
Yep, Disco Wing Nightwing, and his son Jericho, who is Joseph Wilson, defeat him, is that Adeline Kane came and gave Nightwing details about Deathstroke's origin and the way to beat him.
Oh.
And it was the appearance of Nightwing in those details and Jericho that stopped Deathstroke.
I do like her.
Deathstroke was put on trial.
Yep.
Beast Boy broke him out of jail to kill him.
Yep.
And they talked. They just had
because he liked Tara.
They had a chit chat, and Deathstroke was like, "I'm gonna go hunt some lions in Africa because they're similar to killing Japanese people."
And Beast Boy was like, "Do you know how I feel about animals? Because it's complicated."
Yeah. But he's like, "I gotta hunt some lions because they
some lions.
Some lions." And he went to Africa and hunted with his longtime pal and friend who was previously in the origin, Bill Wintergreen, which if you watch Arrow is a name that should sound very familiar to you. So years go by, and at this time, we move along. Deathstroke gets his own comic book series, runs for 60 issues called Deathstroke the Terminator. There's not much to talk about in that. It's basically the Punisher.
Cool.
It gets turned into Deathstroke the Hunted for a while because he gets blamed for the death of a U.S. senator, but we regress and let's move on.
Totally.
So he came back in a big, big bad way, and I think this is the start of his cementing as a DC villain, was when in Jeff Johns' Teen Titans run, he shoots Kid Flash in the knee.
I remember that scene in the first trade. I don't know what issue it's in, but it's brutal.
I believe it's 4.
That picture of him, Bart, and he's like holding his knee.
Yeah.
And it's when they discover that he heals really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he reads the whole library. Yeah,
and so he's the first villain, and it's a Jericho that can body hop.
Yeah.
And that is basically the first villain, and I think that is the start of his DC villain as a key DC villain was that storyline.
It's my favorite Teen Titans team.
He now shows up again. Now there are a lot of Deathstroke stories that we're just skipping by, and it's because we're giving you the best parts, the
essentials.
Yes, exactly. He showed up again in a big bad way in Infinite Crisis.
Yes, he did.
When the Justice League found out that Dr. Light almost raped Sue Dibney, Deathstroke had taken the contract to protect him. And he get into this big fight with the Justice League, and
it's awesome.
It's awesome, yet almost a little too far.
Yeah.
It's really cool because he takes down the entire Justice League, but it's almost too much of a stretch that an enhanced human, basically Captain America, could do this. One cool thing is that he grabs Kyle Rayner's Green Lantern ring and makes it work to his will. But here is the most important fact about Infinite Crisis. Infinite Crisis is the reason why there is a Deathstroke Green Arrow rivalry. They did not have a rivalry before this series because in that battle, do you remember how the battle ended? How did the battle end?
Oh, geez.
The battle ended when Green Arrow took an arrow out of his quiver and stabbed it in Deathstroke's eye.
Yes.
In his empty eye socket. And that's what stopped the fight because Deathstroke was so enraged. Now, in the last issue of Infinite Crisis, Green Arrow is on a rooftop, and he sees in a reflection Deathstroke behind him, and he turns around with a bow drawn, and all he finds is a note. And a note with the arrow, the bloody arrow.
Yeah.
And it says a note from Deathstroke being like, "This is yours." It says, "This is yours. I'm gonna make you pay for it later." I'm paraphrasing badly, but pretty much, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
That is why, to this day, why on Arrow there is a rivalry between the two. It's that moment, because before then they hadn't really encountered each other.
Yeah, they were just sort of tangentially aware.
Exactly.
And they were dancing around.
They had never really fought. I mean, they may have been in a battle here and there.
Not in a meaningful way, though.
But that was what made Deathstroke and Green Arrow be, and it will come back in a big, big, bad way. So, of course, he was part of the secret society of villains in Infinite Crisis. And the big thing he did in Infinite Crisis, of course, was...
Are you sure you don't mean Identity Crisis?
I meant Identity Crisis with the other one.
Okay.
Identity Crisis is where Green Arrow stabbed in the eye.
Yeah,
I got those mixed up. Okay. Now it's Infinite. There are too many crises, guys.
There's so many crises.
He, in Infinite Crisis, is, of course, the one who decided to blow up Bloodhaven.
Yes. With
chemo. And it's because, at the time, Dick Grayson was training Rose. Mm-hmm. He'd asked Dick Grayson to train Rose for him, and Dick Grayson tricked Deathstroke and was teaching Rose how to be a good guy.
Did she have a mantle at that point, or was she just Rose?
She was Ravager at that time.
Okay.
So Rose Wilson was Ravager, and he wanted Dick to teach her how to be a better fighter, how to sneak, do stuff, like all the stuff that Batman taught him. Yeah. And he taught Rose how to be a good guy, and Slade found out, and then he also convinced Rose at the time. Slade was having Rose keep a piece of kryptonite in her eye socket, and that's why. And he found out that he was the one that he was like, "Oh, Rose, kryptonite is poison to humans," and Rose was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And so she left Daddy, and so that broke him apart, and that's why, because that's his last child.
Yeah, I can't imagine why poisoning your daughter would make her maybe not love you.
Yeah, that's old Slade. So he blew up Bloodhaven, and there was also the important scene, of course, where it was the click heard around the world, where Batman held the gun on Slade and let it go click.
Yep.
He pulled the trigger, depending on what version you read.
And every comic book fan goes, at the same time.
So that's, there's one other moment that happens that I really want to talk about, but it's in my required reading. So we'll talk about it there. And of course, we move on, and we move into the New 52. And the New 52, Deathstroke has been written by Kyle Higgins and Rob Liefeld, so he has strong pedigree behind him right now. And he was a member of Team 7, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
They made him part of Team 7. But his armor is made of nth metal, the metal that makes Hawkman fly.
Yep.
And he fought Lobo. So, yeah, there's not much to talk about.
Yeah, not a lot going on for him right now.
In modern media, in other things that are not comic books, Deathstroke appeared on the Teen Titans animated series.
Yay!
And he was called Slade.
Yep.
Can you sing me the theme song?
I sang it for you earlier.
Sing it for me again.
When there's trouble, you know who to call. Teen Titans! That's the only part I remember. I can sing you the cyborg version.
That's all you get, a slow
You're so
clap.
patronizing.
You're so slow clap.
That's a great show.
It actually is a good show. He was voiced by Ron Perlman.
Yeah, and he's scary.
And he was all about converting Robin as his apprentice.
What is it about and Red X?
Deathstroke has...
He's got a crush on Dick Grayson.
Kids.
Dick Grayson's hot.
No, he's obsessed with kids. Not just Dick Grayson.
Well, pedophilia is a thing.
And he also, Deathstroke also appeared on Smallville.
Oh, I did not know that.
As Colonel Slade Wilson.
Played by...
In Season 10, played by Michael Hogan.
Oh,
Colonel Ty.
I knew that. That's an excellent casting choice.
So it's very interesting that he...
Two eye patches.
Yeah, Michael Hogan went from an eye patch on Battlestar to an eye patch on there. He had a sword. You only saw him. He was mainly tangentially, like you saw him on TV appearances and stuff like that. But in the series, he got one sword fight, and during that sword fight, he killed Hawkman.
Michael Shanks.
He killed Michael
Daniel.
Shanks. He killed Michael Shanks, Hawkman, and burned him alive. And then Clark was so enraged that he sent him to the Phantom Zone. And then that was all you saw. That was it.
That's ridiculous.
But most famously, he is currently on Arrow, played by Manu Bennett, who's also
awesome.
Azog in The Hobbit.
Which I only learned today, and I'm very sad about.
On the show, he mentions that he has a son named Joe.
Yep.
And Slade had a partner named Bill Wintergreen, who was the Deathstroke in season 1.
Who was torturing Ollie.
Who we thought was the real Deathstroke. And, of course, he's lost his eye in the future. And now he's got the Mirakulu. So, on Arrow, spoilers, he is...
I hope you knew that there were spoilers coming in this episode.
We can't talk about it. So, he's good on that show.
He's awesome.
And that plays into the Infinite Crisis... His the rivalry.
I wish you could see the hand motions that Jason's making as he tries to explain this now.
It's so good. Okay, now that is your History 101. You can put your class books up.
and your notebooks.
Now we're going to move into some homework for you, some required reading. Now, if you, Ashley, were to think like Deathstroke, can be anything, can be media, can be books. What would you think if people want to experience true Deathstroke the Terminator? What do they need to find out? What do they need to seek?
I will assign you some required viewing, and I will say go get the Teen Titans cartoon, not Teen Titans Go, the one that is currently on the air, but the original one from...
When there's trouble, you know who to call.
But you gotta sing it like a Japanese girl.
Something comes up, we're gonna have a ball.
Teen Titans.
When a papa something attack.
Yeah, the only one I know is the cyborg version.
And we go and we fly a rock. I'm not gonna sing this song badly.
Patrol, Teen Titans Go.
So you go the anime series, even though he's only called Slade.
I mean, it's not anime. It was.
It's very anime.
It's anime-esque, yeah. But I would say because it really boils down the essential parts of the character, and he is actually scary.
He's scary on the show, and Ron Perlman is a good choice.
He's an excellent choice.
Good choice.
And I like his rivalry with
the nuclear vessels.
Rivalry with Wobbin.
Where are the nuclear vessels?
And Tewa across the seasons. Yeah, so I'm gonna assign you to watch the original Teen Titans series from the early 2000s.
I like how you call it the original. There's only one. There's two.
Well, there's two, and I have a lot of feelings about the new one. So, Jason, what is your required reading, viewing, or Googling for our students?
Required reading is not even a Deathstroke book. Mine plays more into the Green Arrow Deathstroke rivalry, and it is my favorite Deathstroke story of all time. It's collected now in a trade called Green Arrow Crawling Through the Wreckage. And it is the Green Arrow storyline that takes place 1 year later after Infinite Crisis. And written by Judd Winnick, drawn by Scott McDaniel. This is the storyline where Ollie is the mayor of Star City. So 1 year has passed, and he's now the mayor of Star City. And some people in Star City don't like that. So they put out a hit on the mayor of Star City. And there's a very famous scene in this, for me, where Deathstroke... he's like talking to his guy who gives him the hits. He's like, "Oh, what do you got?" And he was like, "There's a hit out on the mayor of Star City." And Deathstroke turns and looks at him and just starts laughing and laughs and laughs. And the guy's like, "What's the big deal?" And he's like, "Nothing. I'll take the job." And so
that's awesome.
Deathstroke goes to Star City. And he fights Green Arrow, and he thinks it's going to be an easy fight because Green Arrow, I don't know if you know, is not really the greatest. Like, they've kind of done a good job that in Arrow, the TV show, he's a good fighter.
Yes.
But in the comic books, Oliver Queen is really just good with the bow.
He's very reliant on the weapon.
Exactly. Like, he's an okay fist fighter, but he's nowhere to the level of, like, say, like a Nightwing or a
Batman. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, he's like Nightwing could probably beat him in a fist fight. But
I'd watch that.
Give Green Arrow his bow, and Nightwing's probably going out.
Yeah.
But here's the change to that. So Slade comes there and thinks he's going to make easy work of Oliver Queen, but Oliver Queen for an entire year has been training. And he went and trained with Deathstroke's sensei, whose name, as I believe, is Tatsu. I can't remember. And so Green Arrow starts carrying a sword in this storyline. So
is it a katana?
Yes, he has a katana.
That's cool. That makes sense too, because it would be lightweight.
Exactly, and it's probably their biggest fight ever. And Oliver Queen, spoilers, I'm going to tell you right now, beats him by tricking Deathstroke into a giant hole and covering him in concrete.
Wow.
And that's how he beats Deathstroke. And that's like their best fight. It is highly recommended viewing. Of course, there's always the Judas Contract, but Crawling Through the Wreckage, even though it's not a Deathstroke storyline, is like their quintessential fight in all of the comic books. So Deathstroke comes back one more time to fight Green Arrow, but it's not as good as that fight.
Cool.
So there you go. That's your required reading. And now we enter into the open class discussion. We're questions from you. You can, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com, Geek History Lesson, and ask us some questions.
Or on Tumblr. We have our asks open.
Yeah, geekhistorylesson.tumblr.com. And, this is where we'll talk about you guys, what you want to discuss.
Feed your ego.
But we haven't seen anything, so we're just going to go, what is your favorite version of Deathstroke, Ashley?
My favorite version of Deathstroke currently is the Arrow version.
Even though he's Australian.
I have no problem with him being Australian. I don't think it really adds or detracts anything from the character because they're not playing up his history with the military intelligence.
Boy? What? I always hate in the first season how he was constantly like, we can't trust you to fight. And then
they can't though.
And then Oliver picks up a bow and he's gonna shoot. He's like, all right, I guess we'll fight.
Yeah.
And then the next episode he's like, we can't trust you in a fight. And then they fight. He's like, you saved my ass. And then the next episode, we can't trust you in a fight.
Yeah, that's pretty much the entire first season. I like him because I feel like he's different enough from the kind of old creepy man in the comic books that they've managed to give him some emotional life, and that's really nice to see. And the way Manu, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, Bennett plays that part is, even though he's tough as nails, when he gets those really soft moments, like when he's developing his relationship with Shadow, and then after she, spoilers, kicks the bucket. It's just a really cool dichotomy, and I really, really like watching him and Stephen Amell beat the shit out of each other. That brings me great satisfaction.
I think he's a great casting choice for Deathstroke.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I think he's a really bold casting choice too.
And also, spoilers, since you now see the Deathstroke's in Starling City.
Yeah.
I think he's actually generally frightening.
He is.
He's very good. And it's very cool that now we've got to see him in a modern Deathstroke armor, and it looks awesome.
It does, and I liked seeing him pull rank on Sebastian Blood a little bit, because Sebastian Blood's kind of a weenie in the show, and I'm not really digging that plot line.
And we know, as the season looks to be, it looks like it's leading straight up to a Deathstroke Arrow fight.
Yeah, I hope it's awesome.
Yeah.
Because the Arrow Merlin fight was really great.
Yeah.
So it's got to top that.
I have a feeling that's the way Arrow's going to go, is that they're going to go...
Build, fight.
Yeah, they'll go to a big bad fight.
Yeah.
That the last episode will always be a fight with a big bad, So it's cool that Merlin is Green Arrow's other great enemy. So we had that in season 1. So now we get the Deathstroke fight. Mm-hmm. And Deathstroke's not going to die.
No, they're going to milk that cow for all it's worth.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be the guy he fights in the final episode or something like that.
Yeah, 5 years down the road.
He's not going anywhere.
Who's your favorite version, or your quintessential version of
Deathstroke?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a tough question.
Or from which run? Or
I mean, I have to give the Infinite Crisis Judd Winnick Deathstroke, just for the fact of that fight. Because there's a little caveat on that storyline that I didn't tell you about. So he gets encased in the concrete, right?
Yeah.
And he goes to prison. And
the concrete goes to prison?
No. Deathstroke goes to prison. It doesn't kill him.
Okay.
It just makes him to where he can't move.
Yeah.
And so they can get him. So he goes to prison, and in the prison, he goes and meets Dawkins or Dracon. Or I can't remember his name. There's a Greek guy who Green Arrow fights, who only wears sunglasses and he's barefoot. I think it's Dracon. I don't know.
Okay.
He was the security guy in the very first episode of Arrow. And
yeah, that guy.
And Deathstroke goes and talks to him, and you find out that he let himself be captured, supposedly, which I don't know how he did that with concrete.
But
he did that, and he was like, where did Oliver Queen go for the year? And so he learns and trains and does it, blah, 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 blah. And that leads up to another big fight that they have.
Cool.
So that's... If you put Deathstroke versus Green Arrow, that's the version I like. Even though that, surprisingly, as I found out in research for this episode, that's a very recent development.
Yeah, clearly, because he was the big Teen Titans villain forever.
Well, Identity Crisis happened in 2004. So this rivalry has only existed for 10 years.
Well, just 10 years now.
Yeah. So, interesting. Why do you think Deathstroke has become a big DC villain? Why do you think that? Because now with every storyline, even Forever Evil, they show him on every cover now.
I think because he's a villain that he's never become ridiculous.
Even though his original costume is pretty ridiculous.
Is totally ridiculous, but he's not a character like
pirate boots and chainmail.
I'm going to attempt to pronounce this, and I'm going to butcher it. Mixel Pitalik, who under a good writer can be a really interesting character, but only under a good writer because he's a construct of the time. I don't know if maybe it's because Deathstroke is a later villain and he's really grounded in, besides the super soldier serum, but he's a human who had military training. Like, he's very a grounded character. And I think because he's hopped properties and he's changed sort of arch enemies, I think that's one of the reasons that he withstands the test of time. And I think it's also because he has moved outside to other media, and he's very recognizable from that, like from the Teen Titans series and from Smallville and now Arrow. And because he's genuinely frightening. He's one of the characters where you look at him and you're like, if I met that person in real life, it would not be excellent.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I also like the fact from learning this research that you learn just how despicable this guy is. Like, he is. He's not.
You mean beyond the whole, like, pederast thing?
Well, he has a code of honor. Like, he sort of does.
Mercenaries tend to. Yeah. Fictional mercenaries.
Well, because the fact is, we don't know this in the New 52, but in the pre-New 52, Deathstroke knows Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Oh, really? I never knew that.
He knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. He knows Dick Grayson is Nightwing. He knows the entire Bat family.
And he just elects not to tell anyone?
Because it doesn't serve he doesn't gain any money.
Yeah, I see that.
He knows Oliver Queen is Green Arrow. So you could even go to the fact that he probably knows that Clark Kent is Superman. He probably knows who all of them are. But it doesn't serve, because he's for the money.
Yeah.
It serves nothing to reveal the identity.
Yeah, he wouldn't just go and, like, fuck up their lives for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Just to, like, he's not a joker like that.
Exactly. Like, there's also a very powerful, when Slade wants Nightwing to train Rose, the scene is that Dick comes back from a date, and the date walks out the door, and then he's like, finally, and then he turns, and Slade Wilson is leaning up against his window in full Deathstroke regalia, and was like, I've been sitting there for 20 minutes waiting for that chick to leave, man. I knew you weren't going to do anything with her. and then that leads to a scene where, like, Nightwing starts coming over to punch him, and Slade's like, no, chill out. I'm here to talk. Like, and he's like, look, listen, if I wanted to reveal your identity, I could have done it years ago.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, but it's I was gonna say maybe it's the look.
Yeah, that mask.
Orange and blue.
Well, they're opposite colors on the color wheel, so it means they're complementary.
So did you learn about Deathstroke today?
I learned a lot about Deathstroke.
Was it fascinating?
I knew it was fascinating. I knew the general beats of that story, but you filled in a lot of really interesting gaps that I didn't know about before.
Yeah, okay.
Especially Mrs. Deathstroke.
Mrs. Deathstroke.
She's probably the coolest thing I learned today.
Yeah. In the New 52, Mrs. Deathstroke's the same.
Oh, yeah?
His origin is basically the same.
They didn't just make it all wibbly-wobbly for the sake of it?
Well, the things that majorly change are, like, his kids.
Yeah.
And also a little bit of how he got the serum. Like, that's not really explained.
Yeah.
But basically, that he joined the army early and met this instructor and married her is exactly the same.
And then they had a nugget?
Yeah, exactly. Cool. That's all exactly. They didn't change any of that. But they've changed other stuff, and we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I like his new costume.
Yes, it's probably my favorite.
It's a very anime inspired, and now he's got a really big sword.
Yeah.
It's like a Final
Yeah,
Fantasy
he's definitely
character.
got an anime sword.
So yeah. All right. Well, we hope you all learned something about Deathstroke. What would you give if you were to rate this class of Deathstroke, Ashley? Like if you were doing a survey as a student, what would you rate it?
Out of 5?
275 million.
275 million? I would probably give it 273 million.
Ooh.
So
it's too bad that I didn't tell you that 275 million is actually the low end of the scale. So
well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we hope you all learned something about Deathstroke. I know I did. I found out some things about Deathstroke. As always, that is it for this lesson about Deathstroke for Geek History Lesson. I am Jason Inman. You can find me on Twitter at Jawin, that's Jawiin. You can find me on youtube.com/Jawin with the same spelling. Ashley, where can they find you?
You can find me on the Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson.
And you can find, as we said earlier, Geek History Lesson is on Facebook, facebook.com/Geek History Lesson, and on Tumblr, geekhistorylesson.tumblr.com. You can also find us on the iTunes. Please rate, favorite, like.
Share with a friend.
Share with a friend, because
share with an enemy.
The likes, the stars, those help us, and me, and you.
Yeah, mostly you.
And Destro.
And Deathstroke.
With, getting the word out there about the Geek History Lesson. So if you enjoy this podcast, do it all. Do it all. Go crazy. Suggest our next topic. You tell us everything, right?
We'll do it.
Yeah, okay. Well, class, that is it for this lesson. Hope you join us for the next lesson. Ashley, Why don't you close it on down like a Deathstroke would if he was hunting a tiger that he thought was a Japanese person?
Class dismissed.